BW, do you think we have a severe enough recession depression before the election that will wake people up? Will we have World War III soon, especially if she cheats her way into office? I'll be honest with you, that does concern me. I mean, we are provoking Russia to no end. The last I heard, now we're giving Zelensky and the Ukrainians permission to send NATO missiles far into Russia. Right now, it's only been on the frontier, like we've seen with Kursk. But I mean, that's very, very dangerous here. We are on the cusp of a World War III. And I don't know what they will be desperate enough to provoke. Fortunately, again, I see Putin as very level-headed in this. Putin knows he's Putin is acting as if he has checkmated Zelensky and NATO. Zelensky's just a puppet in all this. He's acting as if he has checkmated NATO. And now NATO is writhing and scratching. I mean, he's a judo wrestler. He is acting as if he's brought NATO to the mat, and now he's kind of wrapped the gi around. I used to do judo wrestling. He's wrapped the gi around the neck, and it's just a matter of time before if they don't tap out, the referee will tap it out. They're going to sleep. Okay. You could do that in judo wrestling's ancient rules. He knows he's got you in a lock, and you're going down. It's just a matter of time before you go nighty-night. Now, in the meantime, they're trying to poke him in the eyes. They're trying to, hit him in the private part. They're doing whatever they can, flailing to hurt him, to make him do something, to release that grip and do something else. And it is technically called a cauldron that the Russians use, that they do have Eastern Ukraine under. And I don't think Putin is falling for it. I think he's just sitting back. We're seeing that with Kursk. He has exercised enormous restraint in that, and he's just simply sitting back and saying, okay, if you want more Ukrainians who you want more Ukrainian casualties as a result of coming into Russia, go right ahead. We'll just surround you and we'll cut you off, and we'll eventually take you out. But we're going. We have got you. We are fighting a war of attrition. The war of attrition means that we are a meat grinder, and everything you throw at us ends up getting destroyed. So eventually, there's no more Ukrainian military, and we will have successfully pacified Ukraine and neutralized them as any possible NATO force. That is our goal. That's what we're going to do. So I just, believe it or not, I thank God for Putin. I'm just glad he's in there, because I think he's far more level-headed than the dolts in D.C. or the bullies in Brussels and NATO. In terms of recession, we'll see. It's bad. It's already bad enough. Most everyone says it's the economy that's the number one concern, and it is killing the Democrats. It was killing Biden. It's killing Kamala. And they knew, looking back, Trump was rocking with the economy. There's just no way around that. And so it's true, no sitting president has been successfully reelected if there's been a recession in the last 2 years of their presidency. I do think it's enough at this point. At least just the polls are bearing that out. Remember, Democrats are operating under a faulty assumption. And the faulty assumption was that they were losing because of their candidate. If they could just switch out their candidate with another one that nobody voted for, because they're the defenders of democracy, then that will stop the bleeding, and they'll get back into their position of where they should be as an incumbent party and win, 52 to 48%, something like that, 53 to 47, whatever they thought they could do. And the cold hard truth was, Biden wasn't losing because of his senility. He was losing by a lot because of his senility. The senility was pouring salt on the wound. The wound was people did not support his policies. They thought his policies sucked. And the reason why he had such a low approval rating was not because of his senility. His low approval rating was because of his policies. And so I think what we're going to do, I think what you're going to see is this bait and switch tactic that the Democrats are banking on is not going to work just based solely on the very low approval ratings for this administration when it comes to the economy. So even if it's not an official recession, I think people are hurting enough. Even Kamala's admitting it. She's doing everything she can to distance herself from Biden's economic policies, even though she was running around championing Bidenomics. And of course, Trump is not going to let her get away with that in the debate. You championed Biden economics. You said it was working, and now you're saying it's not working. We need to do something new. Which is it? Were you lying then, or are you lying now? So hopefully that's could be enough.
Gang, we often talk on this channel about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is, of course, your health. Staying strong physically and mentally isn't just about living longer, it's about living better. So I partnered with the amazing patriots at Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. And that is where Beam has been amazing in my own life. I've been using Beam Dream now for a while, and gang, it has completely changed the way I sleep. I'm frankly a horrible sleeper. I used to toss and turn while my mind raced at night, but since taking Dream, it's been an absolute game changer in my life, gang. I'm out like a light, and I have the most restful sleep ever all throughout the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get the deep sleep you need and deserve. It's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. Instead, I feel refreshed and ready to take on the day. And they're offering Turley Talks listeners an exclusive discount of up to 40% off site-wide for a limited time. Just click on that QR code on the screen or use the link down below to get the best night of sleep you've had in years and propel your wellness journey into the next stage. Click that QR code or go to shopbeam.com/Turley Talks for your amazing discount.
Jules, Patriot, is it possible to undo what has been done? Are we getting unburdened, Jules? All right. Yes, to be a free people, we have to undo what has been done, to be unburdened from what has been done. Yes, we can start again. And societies do it all the time. So the Russian scholar, Pitirim Sorokin, he's the founder of Harvard's sociology department. Back, if I recall, in the 1930s. He's a Russian-American sociologist. He documents how we see renaissance and renewal in civilization all the time. It's part of the pattern of civilization. So civilization starts in a sacred, what he called an ideational society. It starts in a highly religious, sacred society that flourishes in art and architecture and music and poetry. So you get your Venice and your Rome and, your Constantinople and your Paris and your St. Petersburg and, ancient Kyoto in Japan. If you ever go to Japan, you guys got to go to Kyoto because I think it was the only city that wasn't bombed. So it has like the original architecture of Japan's golden era, the Meiji golden era. I mean, you just see all the great cities flourishing, all the beautiful art and architecture and music and poetry and like. But inevitably, societies begin to go secular. And by that, he called it sensate. And by that, he meant that in every society, you have secular needs, literally. Secular comes from the Latin seculum, which means worldly or world. So you have secular needs. You have to figure out how to cook. You have to figure out how to hunt and garden and agriculture, and you have to figure out how to build things, and you have to figure out how to keep marauders from stealing, and so you have to have a military, and you have to figure out economics, and you have to have bartering system or money system. So he would call that the secular side of the world, but he recognized that all societies, their secular, was always a tangible, material, spatial representation of their deeper sacred realities. So our civic law, Harold Berman of Harvard University, a huge, huge volume, showed that our civic law is actually rooted in medieval canon law, the law of the church. Our international relations that was developed in the 19th century is actually rooted in medieval Christian international relations as practiced by both the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope in Rome. Our schooling that we have is inextricably linked to the ancient paideia, particularly an ancient Christian paideia that was developed in our schooling for 2,200 years. Our sense of history is based on BC and AD, with centered on Christ. All of our secular practices are always rooted in sacred practices. But at some point, society ends up, and he says it happens inevitably, it ends up going on a prodigal journey. The secular dislodges itself from the sacred and becomes self-functioning. It becomes its own feedback loop. But the problem is that so it doesn't even care about the sacred anymore. It is its own self-sustaining dynamic. But the problem is that it has dislodged itself, in dislodging itself from the sacred, it dislodges itself from eternal frames of reference. That's the sacred. Eternal frames of reference that can always renew society. And so secular society can't get renewed. It doesn't have a sacred source that can literally replenish it. So secular societies, you notice, always begin to rot. But when they rot, they end up turning into compost, because what's underneath the rot? What is secular society by definition? It's the tangible, material, spatial manifestation of the sacred. So when it dislodged itself from the sacred didn't go anywhere. It's still there because it's eternal. That's the point. So when so the secular society starts to fall, it rots, it turns into compost. And what does compost do? It reawakens the seeds of the sacred. So we do see renaissance and renewal all throughout history, and we'll see one here as well. But like going back to Vlad the Impaler's question, the question is just, how much of the rot are we willing to tolerate? How much of the rot are we willing to keep piling up over the blossoming seeds so as to prevent that blossoming from happening now? That's the question. So we can get through it. It's going to be rough, I know, but we'll get through it. Remember the great speech from Sam to Frodo at the end of the Two Towers in the movie. And he said, when we read those old stories, the stories of old when we were younger and things were so dark and dangerous, we never imagined how we could see the light again, how the sun could ever shine because the darkness was so great. But the sun does dawn again. And when it shines, it does shine all the brighter. Remember this too, Jules. Remember, evil is not a thing in of itself. Evil always is parasitic of something prior to itself. So life is inherently good. Evil is a parasite that lives off the good. So it's like a hole in a shirt. It's not a thing. Or darkness. What's darkness? It's the absence of light. You don't turn on darkness. You turn on the light. The good, the light, the true, the beautiful, that's the real thing. That's real reality, as it were. That's true existence. That's real being. And everything that's evil is parasitic of that truth, of that goodness. So truth and goodness always ends up shining eventually, because evil eventually, like a hole in the shirt, just ends up rotting and taking itself out. So you don't have to worry about it. We'll come back.